More than 85 countries will not have widespread access to vaccines until 2023. A new study has revealed that's because many rich nations have snapped up more vaccines than they need. For a closer look, Dr. Annelies Wilder-Smith from the Chian School of Medicine at Nanyang Technological University. She joins us live now for more. Dr. Wilder-Smith, more than 85 poor countries, they won't have widespread access for these vaccines until 2023. What's that going to mean for the world?
Well, we have to face the fact that currently, basically all countries are scrambling to have access to the vaccine. And all countries will not have wide coverage for many months, if not years to go. But indeed, there's a risk that poorer countries, developing countries, will have less access to the vaccine. And the answer is, we can only beat this pandemic if we have widespread global vaccine coverage for everyone.
So how dangerous then is the knock-on effect of not vaccinating everyone, as you put it, as soon as possible? Will even more deadly mutations perhaps have time to develop?
So the slower we are in responding to this pandemic with the vaccine rollout, the more chances there will be more virus mutations and that the pandemic will continue to accelerate. So the problem is, we just in a moment do not have enough supply to cover the world.
So, Dr. Wilder-Smith, why can't the Vaccine Alliance, the COVAX facility, co-led with Gavi, do more to help poor nations? That's their role.
So indeed, the intent of COVAX is to deliver 2 billion doses to the world equitably by the end of 2021. This corresponds to about 20-25% of the world's population. And indeed, COVAX will start distributing the first vaccines also to low and middle income countries as soon as February or March, so very soon. However, the current limited vaccine supply limits the impact because the current numbers of vaccines that we can distribute are still so low that we cannot achieve good coverage. But really, the intent is to give it equitably to all countries, and all countries that have signed to it have a right to this vaccine. But we need to also consider another factor. It's not only the vaccine supply, it's also the speed of regulatory approvals, approvals for importation, the level of country readiness. Is a country really ready to receive the vaccines? Does it have the ultra cold chain requirements, the necessary freezers, the storage? And does it have a vaccine rollout plan and prioritize those populations that really need the vaccine most?
Yes, and you would expect poorer countries as well to suffer from all the lack of all those things. The WHO chief has called on richer nations to help. Do you think they're likely to, and how could they and how should they be helping?
So indeed, every country, high-income countries or low-income, we are all scrambling. We all do not have enough vaccine. I think the first country to show a better rollout is Israel, followed by the UK and the US. But also many countries in Europe have no access to the vaccine or very little access. But as time continues and as we have access to more vaccines that now get approved and receive emergency use authorization, the more we have access, I think the duty on rich countries should increase to share a proportion of that to the lower income countries. So the current risk to COVAX, which really has the aim to deliver the vaccines equitably, is that rich countries are now having bilateral agreements with the companies.
There's also the question of logistics and distribution, and for large countries like China and India, that's anticipated to stretch into late 2022. Could China perhaps get there sooner, given that it's being very aggressive in its efforts?
China knows how to roll out vaccines, and I do believe that China despite its huge population, once they do have enough vaccines, will be able to roll it out to the entire population. And India, as with its large population, it does have very good distribution processes, including local production of vaccines. So in fact, I do think that India and China will catch up rapidly. It's smaller countries where they may have less of an infrastructure and no local or national vaccine producers that will depend on COVAX for the equitable distribution.
Dr. Wilder-Smith, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. Dr. Annelies Wilder-Smith there from the Chian School of Medicine at Nanyang Technological University.